AITA for having sex with the girl who accepted my invitation to my place, enjoyed it and consented, but now is saying I took advantage and her consent was not valid. The girl X came to the bars to meet with my friend N. This was around 11:30 or so. She wanted to smoke a cig with me and I could tell she wanted me because the whole time was touching me and flirting. She claimed she was just holding on to me for balance as she was unable to stand on her own, and she was not flirting but being friendly like she would with anyone else. So I asked her to come to my place and she agreed, so I called an Uber and we left around 12. She thinks it was unusual that we did not say bye to anyone because she came to see N and she would not have left without saying bye. She also says it makes no sense for her to have come out to see N and dance but then leave after half hour, without spending any time with him or stepping foot in the bar. She claims she did not remember getting into the Uber or the 20-minute ride. I explained to her that she fell asleep in the Uber. When we got to my place she was very into me and wanted me and sex, quite obviously. The sex was great for both of us. She claims that she does not remember starting sex and the next thing she remembered after the cigarette was having sex, so she blacked out for almost 2 hours according to her. But the crazy part is she said she thought she was having sex with N. They have had sexual relations and she thought he had taken her home. We look nothing alike other than we are both Persian. She kept calling me N and I kept correcting her with my name, but she was insistent to call me by his name and she said she thought N was ducking with her by asking her to call him a different name. But girls mistake guys' names all the time during sex, right? She thinks I should have realized that she legitimately thought I was N and actually called her 2 times during our sex, and she is convinced I hit ignore on the calls because she was still barely conscious when he called. When her sister called around 1:30, I tried to convince her not to pick up and keep going, so she assumes I did the same with the other calls she received. She even let me talk to her sister, although she did tell her sister that I was N. And her sister figured out from my voice that I was not him, who agreed to come over to my place too. X started freaking out when she saw a text from N that she left her VIP at his place. She says that is when she realized she was not with who she thought she was with. She was freaking out, running around my place because she thought she was at N's loft, and the layout of my place confused her even more. All of a sudden she was in an immediate hurry to leave to retrieve her VIP, even though I offered to buy her a new one. She got very demanding to make sure I called an Uber and it was on the way. She also freaked out when she realized we had unprotected sex, even though I told her she was the one that said to take it off. She left and I did not hear from her until today. She wanted my help to fill in blank spots in her memory. Her evidence of my wrongdoing was multiply 200b. 1. She would not have come out to meet with her friend and dance, and leave 10 minutes later with a stranger without saying bye to anyone. She thinks I saw an opportunity that she was too ducked up to stand on her own, and whisked her away from her friends. She says had I let her say bye, her friends would have stopped it. 2. We had great chemistry before leaving, but she claims it was one-sided and she was just hanging on to me to be able to walk, and that she was not touching me in a sexual way. She was all over me though. 3. She was unconscious in the Uber. I admitted this to her, and when we first started making love I tried to explain to her that she was conscious and was very into me and sexual. 4. She thinks her calling me N's name all night should have been a clue to me that she was too trashed to know who she was with or where she was. And the kicker is she told me she had taken GHB earlier that night. I had no idea. She has taken it twice before and claims it is obvious to others that she is not sober, and I should have known as she can barely keep her eyes open or walk straight. She also told me she is aware of how too much G affects her and is convinced that she was not barely conscious when the sex started. I care about her, so I told her that she should not be taking drugs like that or drinking excessively if it makes her forget who she is with. Her response was that she felt safe getting high with N around, but that I took her away too quickly for N to intervene. She said it was my responsibility to know she was too ducked up. If she had told me she was too high to have sex, I would not have touched her. When she texted me today and told me she cried on the Uber home and has cried all weekend, I feel so sorry that she feels this way. But it is her mistake for taking this drug. By the way, she did admit that she made a mistake and put herself in a bad situation, but still claims that I did something wrong. I am not a mind reader. I told her over and over that I would never have sex with someone without their consent. According to her, I did not have her consent because she did not consent while she was sober. This is bullshit because she most definitely enjoyed the sex and never said number. Bro, this is not even about being an asshole or not. This is straight up date rape at minimum. I really do not understand why you would post this online. She date raped herself. I didn't give her anything or even know she had taken something until she told me 2 days later. You were kind enough to list out her evidence for us. It was pretty clear to you she was out of it, but you still did it. Passing out in the Uber should have told you immediately something was wrong. You are the asshole, and I can't believe you are writing this here. You could go to jail. He is such a ducking piece of shit that if I was I would be making him swallow every last tooth. OP full on took advantage of this girl knowing she was too ducked up. On called her 2 times during our sex and she was barely conscious. That says enough to me. You knew she wasn't very aware and you said it yourself more times than this. Is this a troll? You knew damn well what you were doing. You took advantage of her. More than that, you're not the asshole, you're the rapist. I think you are in the wrong here. If she was not completely aware conscious the entire time you both were together, and she legitimately thought you were someone else, you should not have had sex. I mean, OP can swing the way he saw things however he wants to try and swing them, but she literally fell asleep on the ride home after drinking. I do not think I have ever thought she fell asleep while drinking. She must be very sober. On top of that, she clearly thought he was someone else. OP saw the red flags, but he needed to get it wet. She passes out in the Uber. I am telling the driver to detour to her place, not taking any chances with that kind of situation, and at least you have the Uber driver to back you up that nothing happened. See, this is what a non-rapist does. I am guessing her not knowing where she was while persistently calling you someone else's name would have been a red flag as well. Sorry, but the way you have written it says to me that you had plenty of clues to think she was not right in the head, and should have questioned her on quite a few occasions. It would likely have become apparent to you that she was high. I mean, falling asleep in the cab. Seriously, she might have had her drink spiked if she was doing that. That would have been a big one to me. No one that falls asleep on the way to your pad is likely to wake up horny. Something should have sparked as wrong there. And if you have a lot of chicks get your name confused during the act, then you must not be very memorable. You should apologize and grovel and admit that it was a mistake, but that you had no intention of anything without consent. You just read the signs wrong. Although I will point out that if you were wasted, your choice-making functions would have also been impaired, and that would make it slightly more understandable. But being as you recounted events perfectly, I would say you still had plenty of cognitive function to recognize the above. So I am gonna say it. You the asshole. As soon as you saw her passed out in the Uber, you should have pulled the pin. Therefore, asshole. Yes, some of the stuff she is saying after the fact is sketchy, but you still stepped past that line in the first place, so that leaves it on you. She kept calling him by his name despite her saying stop ducking with me. I know you're N. He also tried to stop her from answering her sister's phone calls, so I am willing to bet he did silence N's phone calls. He even admits she started freaking out once she talked to her sister, and her sister said that is definitely not N you are with. OP knew he was in the wrong the entire time and took advantage of a drunk girl he knew was not in a right state of mind. Edit. OP also admits to trying to convince her to not answer and keep going, wondering if she was trying to get him to stop having sex with her. In reality, OP is a damn dirty snake. Great big gaping asshole. You mention her passing out, barely being conscious, and thinking you were someone else. Where I live, that would meet the legal threshold for rape. You really need to get some help. Normally I would say people are responsible for their own actions even when they are drunk, as I do not fall 100% into the sober to consent mentality, especially when 2 or more drunk people are involved, but you are absolutely the asshole here. She kept calling me N and I kept correcting her with my name, but she was insistent to call me by his name, and she said she thought N was ducking with her by asking her to call him a different name. But girls mistake guys' names all the time during sex, right? Number. No, they do not. She thinks her calling me an S name all night should have been a clue to me that she was too trashed to know who she was with or where she was. Yes, it should have. It was clear she was not coherent enough to tell two people apart, and you decided to have sex with her anyway. If you were twin brothers with N and she thought you were N, then having sex with her makes you an asshole. Even if you insist you are not N, she never stated she wanting to have sex with anyone besides N. You should have stopped it there. I care about her. If you cared, you would not have ducked her when she could barely tell who you were. If she had told me she was too high to have sex, I would not have touched her. She was not too high to have sex. She was too high to realize you were not N, the actual person she wanted to have sex with, as was plainly obvious by the fact she kept calling you N. She kept calling you the wrong name. She clearly thought she was having sex with some other dude. Why didn't you stop when she was calling you N's name? If she was unconscious in the car, she is definitely too ducked up to consent to sex. You are an asshole and a rapist. You are an asshole. This entire page has been dedicated to oh, she was out of her mind. Did she put herself in a bad situation? Yes, but your morals are skewed. That offense is worse. Yeah man, I think you raped that girl. You took total advantage of her vulnerability. If everything you wrote is true, then you are definitely an asshole and you actually might go to jail. Holy shit dude. Yes, first, girls don't say the wrong name during sex all the time. Just, number. Second, literally the everything else. You had so many points that a self-aware, well-intentioned person would have recognized as time to stop or change course. Even while having sex, you could have literally stopped and been like, wait, who do you think this is? But instead you kept going. She was not able to consent, and you should have recognized that, whether you meant to or not. And I honestly don't know how much is you're being clueless and how much is you trying to convince yourself after the fact you ended up sexually assaulting her. It doesn't matter what drugs she did, at all. It matters what you did, which was prioritize your desire to have sex over all the glaring warning signs going off in your face. That definitely makes you the asshole, and probably a felon. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.